Hello. I'm going to acknowledge that I did get a haircut because I realized the last time I went from long hair to short hair, I didn't acknowledge it, and I feel like that was weird. So yes, I got my haircut recently, and I'm currently loving it because it's out of my way so much more often than before, and I just kind of needed to change, and I cut my hair a lot. Now that I've got that covered, moving on. Today I want to talk about something that I feel like a lot of us do. And that's giving ourselves away to people who just don't care. And it's a really hard thing to talk about sometimes, especially for someone like me who is someone who just likes to help people. I love helping people. I love trying to see the best in people. And I'm always trying to just make other people's lives better. And that's not necessarily a bad thing until it comes to certain kinds of people who tend to take advantage of that. And that's what I kind of want to talk about, because I went through that last year. I've gone through it through years of my life, and it's still something that I struggle with, but I'm starting to get a little bit better about figuring out how to not do that anymore. And I'm going to kind of go through stories and examples with you. One of them is my dating life. So I've dated a lot of guys that I probably shouldn't have, and given a lot of effort to guys I shouldn't have in different ways. And it's something that I didn't quite think about too frequently until I met my husband. So one thing that we've done is we talk about like our previous history and like just things like that. I'm very open about my past relationships because I feel like you learn something in each of them, and I had good times with all of them at some point. Like, you don't just start dating someone because you don't like them or you like are completely miserable all the time. Like, no, I dated them, and at that time I was happy. Didn't quite last very long, or it was disillusioned later, but in that moment I had happy memories with them. So I tend to share that. And he pointed out at some point that it wasn't a bad thing that he got to see, how low the bar was, which is explained why I was always so impressed with him. And that really, really made me think. Now, he doesn't mean anything bad by it, and yes, he is really great and he tries really hard. But it was something that I hadn't quite thought about, where I'd put the bar for them. So looking back, I used to go above and beyond. I used to drive wherever we were going to meet. I used to sometimes pay for mine and their meals. I used to do everything that I possibly could so that I could spend time with them, and so that would make them happy, so that I could impress them. And that's not terrible unless you're the only one doing it. And so looking back, I started to realize that I was the only person giving, and they really couldn't care less. They just were taking and enjoying everything that I was giving, but never giving anything back. And I didn't quite ever think about it that way until he mentioned it, and I was like, you're right. I always assumed that if I was going to be giving all of this, eventually I'd get something back. And that was usually right around when I started to push the relationship a little bit. Be like, hey, do you think we could do things like this more? Or try, essentially getting them to try harder. And that was usually when our relationship ended, which it should have ended earlier, but And that was just a continuous pattern. I would date a guy, we would go out, I would put in all of this effort to get his attention, to make him happy. If he liked a certain thing, I would try to get it for him or do it for him or whatever it was. It was restaurants we would eat at sometimes. It wouldn't be the ones I liked, it would always be the ones he liked. Gifts, I would always go overboard with gifts, and I still do for my family and my husband now and all of my friends. But I would put that kind of effort towards them as well, and I would spend all my time with them. And anything that I could do, I would try to do it to make them the happiest they could be. And again, that's not always the worst thing. I do that for my husband now, but the difference is they didn't used to do it back, and he does. And it just made me realize that I do this a lot. I am continually finding myself in situations where I get to know these people and I give them everything that I have, and I work really hard and I do everything in my power to be the most successful, to make them the most happy, only to turn around and realize that they weren't doing the same for me, and I was getting the short end of this deal. That I was the one getting cheated out of all of these things. And then the relationship breaks down and ends, and then I'm left there trying to figure out what went wrong, feeling like it was my fault, which it usually isn't. And I want to talk about this because we all kind of find ourselves in situations where we do this. And if you don't, congrats. Tell me your secrets. But if you do, don't feel like you're alone, because you're not the only one. I definitely do it too. But we need to get better about not. Because there are people out there who will appreciate it, who will reciprocate that effort, who will help and grow us into better people. And then there's some people who aren't, who are just takers, who are going to enjoy your efforts and take everything that you've given them, and then one day turn around and walk away because they never invested anything in it, so why are they going to stay? And I've realized this a lot through people that I'd met for work, or people that I'd met in places where it was convenient kind of thing, and then once it wasn't convenient anymore, they left, or the effort stopped, or I kind of realized it was not much to leave to begin with. And I'm always the one that ends up hurt in the end. My last relationship, I thought it was really good. And then I look back and think, how often did I pay for our dates? Comparatively speaking. Like, I understand, like, when we're in college and stuff, we're all broke. But when one person always pays and the other person doesn't, there's some imbalance there. And then it was, what kind of gifts did we get each other? I always spent at least a month thinking and debating and researching all of these different things to get the perfect gift, and usually mine was an afterthought. And that would hurt, obviously, but I didn't ever really focus on it very much until after the fact. And then I look at all of the signs that were there beforehand. I could have paid more attention. I could have asked for more effort from him. And you slowly start to learn that. But do you change? I feel like I got lucky when I met my husband, because a lot of the time I didn't expect anything from him. And he just happened to be the kind of person to always try to make me happy too. I remember when I got this haircut. I'm trying to think of an old example. I can think of a new example. Before I got my haircut, I asked him what he thought. I sent him pictures of ideas that I was thinking about, and we had differing opinions on which haircut I should go with, and I was really upset. And I was like, okay, well, I really want this different haircut, and he said that this other one was really pretty, so now I don't know if I want to cut my hair, because I don't know if he won't like my haircut, and he won't think I'm pretty anymore. And I was like freaking out. Cut to, he gets home, we sit down, we talk about it, and he's like, that's not what it is. Like, I just told you which one I liked. Like, you're going to do whatever you want to do. That's not even a factor. And it kind of hit me. I was still trying to do everything that I could to make him happy without taking my own feelings into consideration about something about my hair. And that says so much about me in general, and I just didn't like what it said anymore. I'm gonna try to make him happy. I'm still going to try to give all of my effort to all of my relationships that I maintain, like my best friends, my family members, my husband, but there are other people in my life who have never tried to reciprocate that effort, and they were still in my life. So a couple of days ago, I went through my Facebook and I cleared it out. I scrolled through, and I just started picking out people who not that they were bad to me, just that I didn't feel like I was getting the same thing out of the relationship that they were. Or that there wasn't really a relationship to save anyway. people who maybe I'd accepted just because we had some similar interests and I hoped something would happen. But I never got around to meeting them, and they never got around to meeting me, and it just sat there. So I went through and I started scrolling and clicking, and it was probably one of the most uncomfortable things I've ever had to do, because personally, like, if I ever found out somebody unfriended me, I'd be really offended and really hurt and, like, confused and all. I get really emotional about everything, so that's not really... But I don't like that feeling. And so I was fighting myself on trying not to make them unhappy. And these were wide variety of people, from people who I'd met through work, from people who I'd met in the past, from people who I hadn't quite met yet but I'd hoped to meet, and so on and so forth. But all of these people had that same thing in common, that I wasn't getting what I was putting into it. And then that's what this is about. It's about, yes, you might have this problem now, but you need to start taking the steps to take care of you. Because nobody else is going to do it. And it's not really anybody else's job. My husband makes me very happy, but it's not his job to make me happy. My family makes me very happy, but it's not their job to make me happy. It is my job to take care of myself so that I am happy and I am okay, and therefore can give that to others. Because if I keep giving everyone else what I have, I'll have nothing left, especially if they're not relationships who give back. And even though it feels rude, or it's uncomfortable, or it's quite honestly terrifying to start cutting out these people in our lives who are taking and not quite giving, we need to do it. We need to find some time to do it. And sometimes it could be people that maybe you just need to have a conversation with them and say, hey, look, I would like to continue our relationship, whatever that is, whether it's an intimate relationship, whether it's a friendship, whether it's a working relationship, whatever it is. I'd like to continue this, but I don't like where we're at. And you don't have to say it's like I get more out of it than you do. You could just, I don't feel like equal effort is going into it. Or I don't feel like I am valued in this relationship, because that's important. You should feel like you make a difference to them. That if you weren't there tomorrow, that they'd notice. And I was starting to feel like I didn't. That I didn't matter to these people. That if I did disappear tomorrow, they wouldn't feel a difference. And there's different levels of this. There are some people who I know who it would be more of a passing thought. They'd notice I was gone and they'd be upset about it, but again, nature of the relationship. Some people that I work with, that'll be sad if something happened to me tomorrow, but these aren't the people that I put all that effort into, and that's another part of it. You will have different relationships. You'll have working relationships that are really good, but they're not the people who you bring into your inner circle. And those are the people who take the most effort from you. And if they're not giving back, I don't think they deserve to be there. Because your efforts deserve to have some efforts back. Some of my best friends are there because they put more effort into the relationships than I did at that point. I remember talking to my sister about a couple of my friendships and being like, I don't know, I just don't feel like they're my friends. And she pointed out how much they were trying to be. How they were there for me, how they were talking to me. And I felt bad because I wasn't putting that level of effort. And so I changed my attitude and I said, no, I'm going to put that effort into them. So sometimes it's our mind that needs to be changed and need to get into it and fix that. Sometimes it's just, this person used to talk to me a lot and we used to, I felt like we had good conversations. But suddenly when I wasn't valuable, I guess, anymore, when I wasn't in the same positions that I was anymore, I stopped hearing from them. And that really hurt. Because I thought it was more than that. And they just proved that it wasn't. And I was holding on to that, hoping that things would change. I'd even put out the effort to reach back out to them and say something. And it didn't really go anywhere. And I had to just deal with it, accept it, and do something about it. I decided I didn't want them in my personal circle anymore, and I took them off of certain things because that's not the kind of people that I want involved in my life. And it's never easy. It can be very hard and terrifying, but now my efforts can go to people who matter, or at least who I matter to. I can put my efforts into my husband, who still tries to take me out to my favorite restaurants, even though I told him it's his turn to pick, but he knows which ones I like. I can put my effort into my friendships, who, even though they're hours away, still message me and see how I'm doing, ask what's new in my life, asking when the next time I get to visit or they get to visit. I can put my efforts into family who've always been there and who check in on me and offer their support in any way they can. And I can put effort into new relationships with people who, even though they just went through a hard time, are reaching out and saying how I'm doing. Who we have, scheduled things that we're going to meet up and try to build this relationship. All of your efforts deserve to go to somebody who actually cares that you're putting in this effort. Because those are the people who are going to return that effort and fill you back up. So while you're busy giving away all of this effort, they're busy giving it back in different ways. They're the people who are going to be there for you. And I know as I say this, I'm still going to struggle, and I'm still going to fight myself every step of the way because I hate cutting people off. I hate saying, you know what, I don't feel like I matter to you. Because it's acknowledging that sometimes you don't. And it's hard to realize that you don't matter to somebody. But you know what? You don't need to matter to everybody. You just need to matter to the people who really matter. And those are the people who deserve your efforts. So maybe take some time today to recalculate where your efforts are going to go. Think about the kinds of people that you really want in your life. And make some decisions, and hopefully you'll be better for it. I hope this helps. I hope some of you, rethink the kind of people you want in your life and start to feel better about yourself, knowing that the people who are there now are going to be the people that are going to actually give effort to you as well. But, yeah, that was it. Thanks for watching.